Listen now for these ancient words. From the 2nd chapter of Matthew's Gospel, we read, After Jesus was born in Bethlehem village, Judah territory, this was during Herod's kingship, a band of scholars arrived in Jerusalem from the east. They asked around, where can we find and pay homage to the newborn King of the Jews? We observed a star in the eastern sky that signaled his birth. We're on a pilgrimage to worship him. When word of their inquiry got to Herod, he was terrified. And not Herod alone, but most of Jerusalem as well. Herod lost no time. He gathered in all the high priests and the religion scholars in the city, and he asked, where's the Messiah supposed to be born? And they told him, Bethlehem, Judah territory. The prophet Micah wrote it plainly. It's you, Bethlehem, and Judah's land, no longer bringing up the rear. From you will come the leader who will shepherd rule my people, my Israel. Herod then arranged a secret meeting with the scholars from the east. Pretending to be as devout as they were, he got them to tell exactly when the birth announcement star had appeared. And then he told them about the prophecy about Bethlehem and said, go find this child, leave no stone unturned. As soon as you find him, send word and I'll join you at once in worship. Instructed by the king, they set off. Then the star appeared again, the same star that they had seen in the eastern skies. It led them on until it hovered over the place of the child. They could hardly contain themselves. They were in the right place. They had arrived at the right time. They entered the house and saw the child in the arms of Mary, his mother. Overcome, they kneeled and worshiped him. Then they opened their luggage and presented gifts, gold, frankincense, and myrrh. In a dream, they were warned not to report back to Herod. So they worked out another route, left the territory without being seen, and returned to their own country. And from the poet Rumi, if anyone had once, even once, glimpsed your face of lightning, they'd spend every second stammering your praise. Each moment, like the angels, they'd offer their heart to your fire. Each moment, like the angels, they'd be reborn in you. This is ancient wisdom and holy word. Thanks be to all that is wise and holy. All creation is wisdom and holy word.
All creation sings the wisdom of God.
Hallelujah. We three kings of Orient are, bearing gifts we traverse afar. Field and fountain, moor and mountain, following yonder star. So you might be wondering, that comes later, here on January 8th, why are we still celebrating Christmas? Well, as we've noted earlier, Epiphany is actually the last day of the Christmas season, and since it happened on Friday, we're celebrating today. Epiphany recounts the story of the three kings. This is a story that only appears in one of the Gospels, the one we read today from Matthew. But if you notice, the only kings in the story are King Herod, the Roman Jewish king of Judea, and the baby Jesus, who is called the newborn king. The story also doesn't say how many travelers there were. 2, 6, 25? Well, legend has settled on 3, and legend has even given them names, and sometimes ethnicities and personalities. All that is said about them in the biblical text, however, is this. A band of scholars arrived in Jerusalem from the east. Now, this word translated here as scholars is also translated as wise men or as magi. Magi is the more direct translation from the Greek magoi. Since this is not a common word in English, it requires a bit of unpacking. We can look to see where else in Scripture it's used to get a feel for it. Well, it turns out it only occurs one other time in the Greek Testaments, and that's in the book of Acts. And there it is translated as magicians or sorcerers. Yeah. Well, let's just say this is not a compliment. Sorcerers were seen as false prophets, the kind to be avoided. The implication of the word is that the person may have spiritual gifts, but they use them in false ways for personal gain or power, rather than in an open-handed spirit of love. So this story, by using that word, is actually about a band of travelers from the east, that is, foreigners, who are likely to misuse their spiritual power. So what do we have? Foreigners who can't be trusted. That's the setup for the story. And the fact that these folks meet with the widely despised King Herod makes them even more suspect. So if you can try to back out of all your years of hearing this story and thinking of these as wise, gentle, generous kings for a moment, and you see what the story is trying to tell us, you might get a little bit of a different feel. It's kind of like a setup for a mystery. You're not sure what they're up to, but the way the story begins, the implication is they're up to no good. Now, hearers of this story in the first century would have understood this, but we've kind of lost that thread across the centuries and the cultures and the languages. So when the Magi talk to King Herod, the negative angle of the plot deepens. And then Herod has a secret meeting to figure out what to do about this newborn king that the Magi claim they've come to worship. Having gotten the information he needed from his own band of advisors, who were the religious sycophants who hang out with the king because of their own need for power, he goes back to the Magi in a smarmy attempt to act like he's happy about a rival king. Tell me where I can find him so I can worship him too. So are you getting the story now? We've got suspicious foreigners who are sorcerers in cahoots with a cruel and hated king who himself is in cahoots with his religious minions, and they're all smiling at each other with daggers behind their backs. Does that change the mood of the story for you at all? Yeah. Okay, so now after this creepy little meeting, the Magi take off and go where they've been instructed. And once again, they see the star, they follow it, they arrive, and then they are amazed. They know immediately they're in the right place. They are overcome, and they fall to their knees. They have a what? An epiphany. That's right. That's why the story is an epiphany. They're surprised. They worship the mother and the child, and they offer expensive gifts. Plot twist. The ones you thought you couldn't trust turn out to be the real deal. The ones who have a sudden, striking, intuitive grasp of reality, as Merriam-Webster might put it. So then the story concludes, in a dream, they're warned not to report back to Herod, so they worked out another route, left the territory without being seen, and returned to their own country. So however these Easterners started in the story, where they end up is on their knees in worship. They are guided by a dream to escape the country without being seen by Herod, and whatever deal they had made with that king has now been broken. They no longer want to be part of that power struggle. After their epiphany, they no longer want to help with his nefarious scheme. They give their gifts and they slip away unnoticed. So what does this different approach tell us to this about this familiar story? Well, one obvious answer is that in the presence of the Christ, priorities change. In the presence of that energy, divine love, the need for personal gain or special power falls away, and the urge for generosity and graciousness rises up. Another takeaway is to question your assumptions about who you think people are. These sorcerers, these foreigners, end up being the heroes of the tale, the ones who give without receiving and who refuse to cooperate with empire. Meanwhile, the respected religious scholars are the ones who stay close by Herod and his violent power and give him what he wants. Sound familiar? Yeah, I won't go there. All right. So the story invites listeners to question your assumptions about where the Spirit moves and who might bear wisdom. It may come from a corner that you think is suspect or untrustworthy. And in the presence of pure love, all will be revealed. Maybe the motives of the Magi were always good, but they just didn't understand the power dynamics until they were in the presence, first of the evil intended by Herod, and then of the love birthed by Mary. And faced with that distinction, they discerned what they needed to do. Faced with the difference between the love of power and the power of love, they fell to their knees. In the presence of that energy of pure grace, they opened their bags and their hearts and offered their gifts. Breathe. Now, another way to view these travelers, these magi, wise men, is to understand that one of their areas of learning was astronomy, or maybe astrology. At any rate, they knew something about following stars. It was a new star they observed, and that's what began their journey. This same star then guided them to find Mary and Joseph, Jesus. Maybe Joseph was there, who knows? He's not mentioned. Tuning into the signs of the universe. Tuning in to the signs of the universe. First noticing, and then choosing to follow. They set out on a journey. The journey required them to bring their gifts, and at the right moment, to offer them. As we begin a new year, this pattern seems to me a good way to imagine what's ahead. Can we follow these same steps? First, tune in to the signs that the universe is offering to you. And by universe, I mean the whole thing. People, birds, mushrooms, billboards, songs on the radio, words from friends or strangers. All of it is part of the divine manifestation. And all of it is rife with angelic possibilities. Next, notice when the signs light up for you. The epiphanies, the moments when your intuition fires up. Third, choose to follow this light that you are given. You may notice that the more often you follow those little moments of intuition, the more often they start showing up. When they trust that you will pay attention, they get excited. Fourth, carry your gifts with you on this journey. You can't carry gifts that you don't acknowledge you have. Recognize your own gifts. Be grateful for them. Don't waste time wishing you had somebody else's gifts. You alone have yours. Carry them with you everywhere you go. And finally, at the right moment, offer the gifts you have. And gifts are, by definition, meant to be shared. But not just mamby-pamby spilt out everywhere. Used generously and graciously when called. At the right moment, the story says, the Magi opened their luggage and gave away the gifts. Breathe. We sometimes talk about knowing our true north or our North Star. For the Magi, it was actually probably more of a southwestern star, but we're not sure exactly where they started. But how do we find our true north, our guide star? Well, today you were given a small piece of paper star. And I'd like you to pull that out now and look at it. And I invite you to take this star and hold it between your hands and bring it to your heart. And then just take a moment, maybe with your eyes gazing softly down or closed if that's more comfortable. Just take a deep breath and pull your attention down out of your mind and into your heart. And continue holding the star near your heart. And I invite you to ask yourself, what is a quality, a value, a sensation that guides me? It might be a ringing tone on your phone. It may be something broad like love. And if so, that's fine. However, I would invite you to stay with a word like love and see if something more specific emerges. Something that twinkles or shimmers or lights you up. Maybe something that makes you feel like dancing or singing or even crying. Something that brings the energy up in your body from your feet or down your spine from your head. Something that offers you guidance, direction, trust, courage. Just take a moment now for quiet and see what comes. What is a quality, a value, or a sensation that guides you? When you find a word, I invite you to write it on your star. Keep breathing. have no way of knowing what journeys may be ahead for us this year. Maybe simple little moments of us just being at the right place at the right time to help somebody. Or maybe big journeys are ahead. Birth or death, romance or illness. The journeys may be deeply personal or part of a global shift. As we begin the journey of 2023, we might be suspicious of some of the people on the journey with us. Their ideas may seem foreign or untrustworthy to us. And we may get detoured by some people that we thought would be helpful but proved to actually be untrustworthy. But whatever the journey, the universe, love, grace will offer us signs if we pay attention. There is a star for us to follow. There is a light that wants to guide us. There is a light that wants to guide us. There is a love that wants to call forth our gifts. There we go. Stop.